In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the ASR. Let's start by unpacking the audio interface and the ASR kit. Carefully remove all parts and cables from the case. Now let's unpack the audio interface. Now that we have all of our parts, let's start by plugging in the USB cable that came with the audio interface into the audio interface. This will get it out of the way so we don't confuse it with another USB cable that we have. Now let's pick up the other USB cable that's in the kit and plug it into the ASR interface. Now we're going to plug two audio cables into the ASR interface. The color doesn't matter. Just plug one cable into one jack and a second cable into the other jack. Now let's plug in the last cable, which is an Ethernet cable. This is what connects the ASR interface to the ASR on your violin. Now let's prep the microphone. Start by uncoiling it. Position the microphone behind the bridge of your violin. It will be held in place by the G and E strings. Make sure that the microphone capsule isn't touching the bridge or your strings. It should just be floating between them. It's useful to wrap the microphone cable under the chin rest to keep it secure and out of the way. Now we're going to connect the other end of the microphone to a black metal cylinder that lets us connect it to the audio interface. There's a small groove in the cylinder that aligns with the microphone jack. It should easily snap into place. When you're packing up the ASR, you can press the small black button on the jack to remove it from the cylinder. Now let's plug the cylinder into the audio interface. You want to put it into the jack on the left side. Twist the cylinder until it aligns with the jack, then give firm pressure to snap it into place. Now we're going to connect the ASR interface to the audio interface. Notice the letters S and A on the interface. You'll see that they're close to each of the two audio cables. In my case, I have the yellow cable connected to S and the turquoise cable connected to A. Now look at the back of the audio interface. You'll see the letters A and S again. Connect your audio cables to these inputs. A should be connected to A, and S should be connected to S. Now I'm going to set the ASR interface on top of the audio interface. This is a nice way to keep things a little bit neater and less cluttered. Now I'm going to attach the ASR to my violin. One side of the ASR has an Ethernet jack. This should go on the G string side of your violin. Now slide the other rubber foot down the E string side of your violin until it feels secure. Make sure that the body of the ASR is not touching the back of your violin. If it is, remove the ASR and twist the feet to increase the gap. Now let's plug in the Ethernet cable to the ASR. Plug both USB cables into your computer. There will be one for the audio interface and one for the ASR interface. When you plug in the audio interface, you should see a small green light turn on. The ASR interface also has an indicator LED to let you know that it's powered and connected. Now let's set up the audio interface. Press the INST button that's near the microphone connection. Now press the button that says 48V. You might hear some clicks or some brief noise, that's fine. Now turn the gain dial until it's at about noon or 12 o'clock. The line should be pointing basically straight up. Pluck the strings of your violin. You should see the knob turning green. If it turns red, you can turn the dial to about 11 o'clock or so to turn down the gain of the microphone. Now turn the large dial that says monitor to about 3 o'clock. This sets how loud the sound is that comes out of the ASR. You can turn it down a little bit if you find it to be too loud. In addition to the large monitor dial, there's a second way to control the loudness of the ASR in a very precise way. On the ASR interface, you'll see two letters, A and S. A stands for actuators, and S stands for speakers. Make sure these two dials are turned all the way to the right, to about 4 or 5 o'clock. As you get to know the ASR, you might decide that you want to turn off the speakers and just use the actuators, or turn off the actuators, or maybe just turn them down a little bit and use mostly the speakers. These two dials will let you do that, but for now, keep them turned all the way to the right and don't worry about them.